Hi, yes. Okay, sorry. Sorry, that scared me. Hi. Okay, well, thank you, Amanda, for joining us. And I do think there'll be people that will tune into the recording. Like I think this one will be high in demand. I just think everyone by the time 7 rolls around is pretty spent. But Amanda presented twice at ASTI at least, right, Amanda? Twice.
Oh
And
yeah,
so
twice.
I actually missed all her sessions the first time, but knew someone said, "Hey, my friend Amanda's going to be there. You got to see it." Got no, not it, her. And then the second time I watched the recordings of her sessions last year because I was teaching or busy when she was presenting. Anyways, they were so awesome. And so I don't know your exact job title, but I do know you're an awesome presenter because I listened to them from ASTI. And so I feel like a lot of Alaskans will recognize your voice and face from that. And she's a wealth of knowledge and lives in
Thanks.
California, not Alaska.
Yeah, not Alaska. I live in California. I did get to go to physical ASTI 2 years ago, and it was awesome. I really enjoyed being up there for the first time. So, my official job title right now is Special Projects Manager, which doesn't sound very teacher-y. Um, but I was a teacher for many years. I just can't find a teaching job in California. So instead, I'm a project manager for training and development and professional development for schools. So I get to do a lot of things right now. But I sometimes I miss the classroom. I feel like life would be a little bit more simple, although it's not, right? Because teaching right now is exhausting. I have several friends down here that are classroom teachers, our mutual friends that Laura and I have, and it's really hard right now. I can't imagine hearing everybody say how stressed they are. Um, I, it's not just you. It's everybody. I don't know if I've talked to a single teacher this year that's like, no, this is easier. Things are better. Everybody is having a hard time. So it's actually a really great kickoff to what we're going to start with today. So let me share my slides with you. I've got a couple different things that I want to share. Nothing too heavy, hopefully, just kind of light and inspirational to kind of get your year going. Let me present that. There we go. Share our browser. I don't think I need sound. I'll turn that off. And hopefully my kids don't come and bother me, but they might. It's almost bedtime for them, so it's possible. We'll just ignore them. My husband can put them to bed. All right. So what I have for you guys today to share is a little thing that I like to call DIY your PD. As somebody who works with schools across the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, this large group of like 200 something schools, we provide them with PD, but at the end of the year, they're kind of on their own. And the big question I get is like, what's next? If we can't afford you to come back and teach our teachers, like, where do we go from here? Where can they get PD at this point? And there are so many amazing options out there to continue your learning. Obviously, y'all are taking advantage of this with your GEG, and I think Alaska teachers, because of so many of you are remote and rural, you kind of have to lean into that. You don't get to just have a ton of educators right down the road from you, but it's amazing how many times people forget the resources that are right like out their back door. um, so that's kind of what this is focused on. So this is me. Like I said, I've been working in education since 2005. I used to be a high school family consumer science teacher back in Texas before we moved to California, and now I get to work with a bunch of private schools through formerly EdTech Team, now a company called Design for Learning. Do you want to come say hi so you can get it out of your system? You guys want to say hi? This is my son Aiden. He's the cute one in the picture there who looks just like his daddy. Aiden is 9 and he's in the 4th grade. Okay, you can go away now. Love you. And his 11-year-old sister is upstairs. Um, and we live in Southern California. I'm also an expert-ish in Google certified educator certification. So if you guys have any questions at the end about some of the changes that they've made, I will happily answer those too while you have me here. I also love to read. If you're a reader and you're on Goodreads, you can find me on there, and I always have a book that I can recommend. that is my self-care right there, is reading. I was actually listening to a book before this started, and I almost missed my start time because I was wrapped up listening to a book. Okay, so today we're going to talk about setting your own PD goals. What does that mean? Connecting to a community, which I think you guys already do really well, but we can talk about some of the other ways that I found community, and then where to find free training and resources, and hopefully something that you haven't done before. All right, so the first one is setting goals. And this one, I always love to tell this story. When I first started teaching at the beginning of the year, the principal would pass out these papers and they would ask you to like set a goal for the year. Like, what are your teacher goals? And then after a while, they started adding a technology goal, which I loved because they were asking me to set technology goals, but they weren't giving me any technology to use in my classroom. So my technology goal back in like 2007 was like, organize my email and be better at email, which I think now, as somebody who works with technology so much, like that is such a lame goal. But at the time, that's probably, besides my classroom projector, was the most technology I had. Hopefully I can help you set better goals than organizing your inbox. Okay, so to do this, we're going to do a gripe jam, and I'm going to walk you through how to do this. I highly recommend that every teacher do this at least once a year. It really helped me kind of narrow my focus, and really dive into what I wanted to accomplish in a year. And if that is organizing your inbox, well, then hopefully this will give you kind of the power to do that and to really focus on getting that done. So the way that we use a gripe jam, and this is from Jenny McGarra's book, Eduventures, I think is what it's called. And they do it a lot with the coaching program through Google. And I just really, really, really love the process. So first, what you're going to do is, if you have in front of you some sticky notes, you can also do this digitally if you want to use maybe like Jamboard or something like that. I actually have a Jamboard that I was going to share with everybody. So I'll pop this in the chat. If you want to just grab an empty frame at the end, you could use that as well. Or you can make your own. I happen to have Post-it notes on my desk, so I would just use those. But you're welcome. You guys should have edit. Yes, edit. So if you want to just, if you've never used Jamboard, you can just hit the next frame, go all the way to the end, and then grab an empty frame. I'll just keep on making them. We can go up to 20, and any frame on here you can delete. So you can grab one of those and use the Post-it notes here. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to come up with a list, try to come up with at least 10 of gripes that you have about teaching this year. Anything, nothing is off limits. Nobody's going to see this. Your bosses, your principals aren't going to look at this. I won't tell them. And you can be as sarcastic or as serious as you want. That's the whole point of a gripe jam. So start writing your sticky notes out, and then I'm going to tell you what to do with those stickies in just a second. I'm going to set a 5-ish minute timer. And then we'll see how you guys are going. And you don't have to use the Jamboard if you don't want to, but you certainly can. If you have Post-it notes, you can do it. When I did it, I actually did it with Post-it notes right here on my wall, because that's what I had in front of me. I'll give you guys a few minutes. Normally I would play music, but I don't have that. Maybe I can have my son sing to you. You want to sing, Aiden? He's like, no, he's shoving bread in his mouth. We'll sit here and watch Laura's. All right, you guys have a lot of good things listed here. Another minute or two.
Recording.
I think, we just have somebody new add. So let me explain what we're doing really quick. We're doing what's called Gripe Jam. So we're just taking a few minutes and writing down on Post-it notes or using the Jamboard that I listed here to write down all of the things that you struggle with at work right now. And then I'm going to show you what to do with these in just a second. I promise it's more than just than just a complaining fest, but that's good too, right? Usually the first coaching session that I have with teachers is what I like to call a dump session, where they just dump everything that is bugging them about their life and about teaching into the room. And sometimes I've had people ask, why do you let people do that? It just seems like they're complaining. Well, sometimes we have to complain about things to find like where the holes are, because coaching with teachers isn't just about fixing what admin wants you to fix or thinks that you need fixed. It's about you as a professional deciding what is going to be most meaningful to you to fix, because we are masters of our craft, and so we should have a good feeling about what needs to be fixed or what needs to be better about our own teaching practice. So anybody want more time, or are we good to move on? You can give me a thumbs up if your video is showing, if you're good to go. All right, and you can have time to come.
I'm good to go. I'm just driving down the road, and so I'm listening, but I promise I'm participating listening.
Perfect. And you can always come back and do this later, especially if you decide tomorrow, like, oh my gosh, there's like 10 things I didn't add to this. You can always come back and add to it. Okay, my son is very interested in what you guys are writing, by the way. He doesn't realize that teachers have so many struggles. Like, he just thinks the y'all's jobs are so easy. All you do is like make kids do things. You don't think it's easy? No? Okay, go away. Love you. Bye. Okay. Him being back at school during the day while I work is so nice. It's been huge this year to have him back at school and not being at home. All right, and Addie. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort them. So first, you're going to sort them, and you can actually go either way. You can sort them top to bottom, or you can sort them left to right. I like to go left to right first and then top to bottom. So the first thing that we do is we take our pile, and the ones closest to the line on the left is going to be the fewest number of people impacted by this problem. And then as you go over to the right, the problem affects more and more and more people. So for example, if if I have something wrong with my classroom, like my desk chair is broken, well, that only affects me. So that's going to be all the way to the left. But if my air conditioning doesn't work in my classroom, then that's going to be all the way to, or maybe more to the middle. That's affecting me and my students. And then sometimes you have problems that are affecting your entire school. And so you're going to sort your problems left to right first by the number of people they impact. So all the way to the left, they mainly impact just you or a small number of people. All the way to the right, they impact more people. And then the next one is your ability to influence that problem. So your ability to influence that problem, if you have control over that, it's going to be down at the bottom. And then the problems that you don't have control over, you're going to put that all the way at the top. So for example, the fact that COVID is still rampant in so many places there's only so much control we have over that. So that might be a little bit higher towards the top. Whereas, your ability to make sure that your students have charged devices every day, if that's something that you can control, that can be either towards the middle or down towards the bottom. Does everybody understand how to sort them? So it'll kind of look like this. Your ability to influence the solution will push them towards the top. Or sorry, down at the bottom is your ability to influence. Further at the top, you have less ability to influence. I feel like I did that backwards, but either way, we're going to look for this things in the same quadrant. All right, so the next step is finding, so taking your ability to influence and the number of people, what you're looking for is kind of that magic spot right in the middle. So obviously things that you don't have control of, those get to be off the beam because you can't fix what you don't have control over. You can find ways to manage some of those issues, but the ones that are going to be focused on for your goals for the year, those are going to be things that you have control over, and you want to try to find the items that affect the most number of people. And then, so usually we pick 2 or 3 that are going to fall in kind of this bottom right category over here. So they affect a lot of people and you actually have control over the situation, or you have control over an outcome or a solution. And then what I typically like to add is add one like unicorn goal. So if you could fix one problem that you feel like is actually solvable, which one would it be? So you've got your 2 to 3 fully attainable goals. One of them that I saw on Laura's list was lack of impulse control, students with laptops. That seems like a really, if she could solve for that, it would probably have a huge impact in her class. And it probably also would be tied in possibly with student behaviors, because these are probably related in some way. And I bet we could help. I bet she could find a solution for this feet hurt problem too, right? So picking 2 or 3, it doesn't always have to be something that is an instructional goal. If we could operate that way, then we would basically be robots, right? When I was, right after I had my daughter, I just wanted to be able to pump because I was breastfeeding at the time, and I couldn't find the time or a place because I didn't have blinds in our office. And so one of the things that my principal asked was like, what can I do? How can I help make your life easier? And I said, don't ask me to do any other committees because I can't. And I need blinds for my office. And she showed up the next day and said, I took you off that committee that I put you on earlier this week, and here's your blinds. Did it make the year easier? I mean, no, the year was still really hard, but at least I had blinds and I had one less committee to show up to. And so sometimes we need that. We need that quick win, and then we can focus on the other things. All right, so everybody has their items. And if you want, if you're using Jamboard, you can come in here and highlight using the sticky note. Sorry for that yawn. You can highlight using the sticky note, like which ones you really want to focus on. So make blue, that's your color. And you can even have like primary goals, secondary goals, and, third level goals. So that is how we do Gripe Jam. And also don't forget, I know sometimes it doesn't feel like we have the ability to delegate. because we're teachers, and it's not like we have secretaries that do do work for us. But you'd be surprised how often we can find opportunities. Sometimes it's really random. I had a friend who had left teaching, and then we reconnected after she left the classroom, and she just wanted to help. And so she would come over on Friday nights, and we would have a drink together, and we would eat pizza, and she would help me grade. It was like the lamest girl date ever, but she did this like every other week for a whole semester, and it made my teaching middle school career. So I still tell her to this day, if it wasn't for you, I probably would have quit. So when people ask for help, I know sometimes it's hard to think like, well, I don't know what you could do. Find something, figure out. Becoming a delegator sometimes is one of the best things you can do as a teacher, if you have people that are willing, to do stuff for you. Okay, so that is Gripe Jam. Any questions about Gripe Jam? These are tough, and some of these, like, they make me want to cry. Like hostile parents, like, and people not wearing masks. Sorry. Yeah. So many of these things. I'm going to try not to cry. Okay. We've all seen these before, SMART goals. I'm not going to lecture teachers on how SMART goals work, but sometimes we need a small reminder that a goal is something that's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time specific. So if you want that to be your goal, is it going to matter to you if it's something that you attain? And what will it look like if you attain it? For example, I love the goal, organize my inbox, but what does that mean? Does that mean that I've got inbox 0 at the end of every week, at the end of every month? Does it mean that I'm responding back to people within 48 hours? Sometimes I don't know what that goal means. And so I'm going to have to adjust that as I go. Oftentimes I get from teachers, make more engaging lessons. Cool. That sounds like a really hard goal because we could spend a lot of time building this amazing lesson, and then your kids are like, this is boring. Why do we have to learn this? So what does it mean to you to have engaging lessons? What does that mean for buy-in from your students? Is that going to change the way their behaviors are working? So make sure that you're not just throwing these big lofty things in the air, but then there's nothing that's there to measure it. And I know that's hard because we all want to have engaging lessons, and our principals love to tell us that if our lessons were engaging, then we wouldn't have classroom management issues, which is not always true. Some that may be part of it, but that's not always true either. So just keep that in mind. And I know it's hard to say this out loud, but try not to be too hard on yourself because it hasn't been an easy 2 years. All right. Any questions about inbox 0? Yeah, inbox 0, Tana, is my favorite. I was actually off for the last 2 weeks with a family emergency. I had to fly back to Texas. I just got home on Saturday. So my inbox is nowhere close to 0 right now, and it is stressing me out because I typically am on inbox 0. I have a great webinar if you'd like to see how to do that. But it really does make a difference when I can see what I need to see, and I'm not having to worry about mail from like 5 months ago. You can, I promise. The first step is archiving all of your, so she said in the chat, there's no way in the entire world that I could do that. You can, absolutely. Right, Sean, it is. So it's never going to be 0, but the goal is by the end of the week, you've either archived any mail that you no longer need, or you're snoozing mail that you have to work on for the next week. So it isn't truly inbox 0 because there's always something left over. But when you come in on Monday, it's a fresh list, and it's only a list of 30 things instead of like 1,005. So that's how inbox 0 works. And my husband does inbox 0 too. So oftentimes on Friday, we're like, how many you got left? I got 5. Okay, cool. I've got 20. So trying to get to that end. And I wish I had known that when I was teaching. I think it would have made a big difference because I hate losing email. That's like the worst. And when people ask you something and you're like, I didn't get it. I hate that. Okay. Connecting to a community. Like I said earlier, I feel like Alaska does a really good job. Do you guys feel like you do a good job of this? Connecting community, finding teachers. Do you feel like you're lacking in this at all? Do I just have a unicorn view of how well connected Alaska teachers are?
I think if you're motivated to get connected, you do.
Okay.
But if you're not motivated, it'd be really easy to slip through the cracks. Like if you're only able to talk to people in your town, if you're not in a big city.
Okay. Do you guys ever feel like, okay, I really need help with this thing? Like, I don't have anybody that is an expert in that thing, or I don't know who to get help from. You're kind of stuck. What is your favorite source of PD? Let me know in the chat, or you can unmute and tell me, what is your favorite, like if you want inspiration for something, where do you go? There's no wrong answer, by the way. Can you guys hear my husband playing video games? I love in-person Twitter, Zoom conferences. So I'm always surprised when I work with a group of teachers that tell me that they don't realize that there's a global educator community. And so when we talk about things like Twitter or YouTube, like it's just beyond them, that there are other people out here that talk about what they do, that share things what they do, and that they do it totally for free. I love, and yeah, ed camps are fun too. Talking about some of the communities that you guys are in, it looks like Twitter is really popular. Obviously, your GEG is popular. Ed camps, especially when you can get in person. Chelsea, TikTok is my new favorite. Although it's like half entertainment, half education. I do find there's quite a few, and I definitely have a bunch of teachers that I follow, although none of them teach what I taught. I still get a lot of I get a lot of inspiration. I feel like Instagram is a little bit more targeted, but Instagram is another one. I also follow a lot of they call it book talk because I love to read, and so I get a lot of book recommendations from there as well. Tons of, yes, and Facebook groups are huge. I have to be careful. Facebook groups can get a little feral sometimes. They can get like super complainy if you're not careful, but there are amazing Facebook groups out there, and for about like every subject in the world too, which is really great. So a couple of ideas, if you aren't, and if you have been, doing Twitter consistently for the last couple of years and you want to try something new, branch out to Facebook, branch out to, Instagram. It's kind of, what are you wanting? Are you wanting a passing inspiration? Then I think Instagram and TikTok are going to be the better places for that. If you want community, I feel like Twitter and Facebook do better about building community, are those two places. And Pinterest too. Sometimes even if I'm not buying anything, even going to TPT and scrolling through and getting ideas just from the previews that they show, I think can be really helpful too. Like, oh, I think about doing it that way. So I would definitely consider that a community, because it's a place where you go and you search for things and there's people that you like and that you follow. And if they have a TPT page, they probably also have a YouTube channel. And YouTube has a lot of really great people there as well. Somebody said they have a hard time listening through YouTube videos. You can't do this on all videos, but YouTube specifically, and one of the other ones that I list later is podcast. You can actually increase the speed in which you listen. And I've heard several people say, well, that's crazy. You can't comprehend it at that speed. There's actually studies showing that people with ADHD and people with dyslexia actually do process better at faster speeds. It does take a while for my to train my brain, especially if it's a new narrator or if it's a really heavy academic content, I may not be able to go above 1.25, 1.5. And if I'm trying to multitask. So if I'm driving and listening, well then, yeah, no, I can't do 3.0, but I can probably do 1.25 or 1.5. And there's something about that increasing the speed that makes me feel like I'm hacking life. And I already feel like I'm being more productive because I'm listening to something twice as fast. When I listen to myself, when I go through trainings to double check content, I always listen to myself at a faster speed, which is super fun because I feel like I talk fast anyways. And then when I crank up that speed, super quick. Laura, when you listen to all of the level 1 trainings, did you up the speed?
I don't know. I don't think I upped any speed of anything.
You can do that on those videos. So you can go in and there's usually on YouTube. So let me show you on YouTube. There's usually a gear. Let's see. Oh gosh. We'll listen to Olivia Rodrigo. Actually, I don't think I have video or audio shared, so you guys won't be able to hear it, but I can show you where it is after I skip my Grammarly ad. All right, so right here, this gear, this is where playback speed is. And this works on mobile devices, most of our learning platforms. So for example, Design for Learning. This is our learning platform here. Let me open up the preview. Current lesson. This also, I believe, works if you've ever done, what's it called? Applied Digital Skills or CS First. Those are 2 curriculums that Google provides. Those can also, they don't have as many options. You can either slow, normal, or fast, but you can up the speed on those too. So typically under the gear, under most video formats, you have the ability to adjust the speed. So try this out, especially if you get bored listening to stuff, try listening to it a little bit faster and see if that helps. So free training and resources, YouTube, honestly, one of my favorite places to go, especially if I have a specific question that I need answered. Like I need to know how to do this, or I need help with this topic, or I'm trying to learn something new. I'll go to YouTube first. YouTube has taught me so many, I basically learned how to be an adult with YouTube. It is the 2nd largest search engine right now in the world. And students still use it. It's not out for them. They use YouTube. My child watches YouTube like we watched cartoons as kids. So just about anything you can find, and there's creators and things that you can follow that are really great. If you're looking for supplementary lessons for students, YouTube has some great stuff there too. Podcast, a lot of teachers forget that podcasts are out there, especially if you are driving to work now. You can listen to a podcast in the car. And you can typically up the speed on those too. There's a ton of educators, or if it's something more like self-care and you just need something to lighten your mood and encourage you as you go, there's some great podcasts. I love Brene Brown's podcast. If you want to focus on social emotional learning, I think all of Brene Brown's stuff is amazing. You can listen to that. If you want to focus on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in education, there's a ton of great educators out there that focus on that. D-Linear is one, and Ken Shelton. They have really great podcasts out there as well. And then, of course, there's things like webinars like this one. There's newsletters, there's products that you use. So if you love Flipgrid, Flipgrid is going to have a ton of PD out there. You just have to know where to go to find it, which is typically their website. Same thing with Seesaw, with Google Classroom. I feel like Google Classroom is a little bit more like disjointed. Come here, baby. This is my daughter. This is Addie. She's my 11-year-old, and they're going to bed. Good night, love. I think Google products are a little bit harder because it's not Google putting it out. It's other creators that are making it, but a simple YouTube or Google search can help you find those things. What curriculums or platforms do you guys use that you've used those free resources before? Seesaw actually did a huge thing this summer where they had small groups, and you could join after their virtual conference that they had in August. You could join a small group. I actually facilitated one. We had 4 separate meetings where they went through a whole bunch of courses, and then we met as a group 4 different times and talked about the things that they were trying, stuff they wanted to implement, questions they had. It was a really cool experience, but if you didn't know about it, then you weren't there. Newsletters can be super tricky because how many of you have like 1,001 marketing emails in your inbox that you don't actually need half of them? When you take some time, like on a Friday night with a glass of wine or your beverage of choice, sit down with your computer and unsubscribe to all those suckers. I know it takes time, but that's really the best way to do it. I do it about twice a year. Mostly because I'm fed up of my inbox being full of a bunch of crap. I'm going to need to do it again because we bought a bunch of stuff for the kids before the school year started. So I'm getting like Vans shoes sends me an email every day. I don't understand why. I only buy shoes like twice a year. I don't need your email every day, but I keep forgetting to go in there and, click on it and get rid of it. So those newsletters are great, but if they're not useful to you, if you don't want them anymore, then unsubscribe. You can always resubscribe. You can always find that information on their site again. Podcasts are my favorite. And if you want something, apparently true crime is really popular right now. Anybody listening to true crime podcast? Every female that I talk to is like, oh, and this one true crime podcast. I was like, okay, this is like a cliche because I didn't realize that everybody's reading about true crime. True crime scares me. It's too real. I can't. Makes me want to never.
I got addicted to the Serial podcast once, and I was like, I will never listen to crime podcasts again because I was doing nothing. I was just laying there listening.
So we listened to the first series of Serial. We had a Christmas party in Vegas and I had to be at work on Monday. So like we literally drove out there, went to the party and drove back in the middle of the night. And we listened to Serial all the way out there and all the way back. And then at the end, I was like, that's it? That's how it ended? There's no resolution. It's killing me. There was one about a coffee hut in Anchorage. Is that the one about there was one about a book. They wrote a book about it. And it happened in Alaska. Is that the same one? No, it's a different one, Sean. Okay. I did read that book because I had to read a nonfiction true crime book because I'm super weird and I'm in a competitive reading group on Facebook. Believe me, if you want it out there, you can find it. Who would have thought that as an adult, I would be reading for points in a competitive reading Facebook group? It happens. And I don't get paid for this. I do it for free. Small town. Okay. Ooh, I love that. It was about a murder that happened. Okay, I'll have to look into that. What was I reading? What was that book called? I'll have to go back and look at my list. Hang on. I have a keep note with all my books on it. I can find it really fast. If you guys aren't using
Butcher
Google
Baker
Keep-
is the one that is about the serial killer back in the 80s, right?
It was not that. It was actually a guy who they realized had murdered like a bunch of people.
Israel Keys.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was
Yes.
thinking.
That's the coffee hut incident.
Yeah, that's the coffee hut one. What was that called? Oh, how far back did I read this? American Predator by Maureen Callahan. That was the book about Israel Keys. That one was terrifying. Anyways, true crime podcast. Super cool. Okay. A couple of other things that I wanted to share, some new things. This is did I share this? I don't think I shared this presentation with you guys. Let me put it in here. Edu protocols. Anybody using Edu protocols? How many of you have heard of HyperDocs? Okay, think of an Edu protocol as like a baby HyperDoc, and that's probably not really the best like description of it, but if you're familiar with the templates and building HyperDocs for students, EduProtocols is like a smaller version of that. It's a really great way to build simple routines that utilize, digital Google Slides or Jamboard or whatever. And so you can build really simple routines. If you have a similar like math or grammar exercise that you do with your students regularly, and it's something that you're copying worksheets for, there's probably an EduProtocol that could take the place for that, especially if it's something that you do repetitively with your students. They have this whole thing called Smart Start, and you kind of go through all of their basic EduProtocols with your students. And then when you're ready to use one, then you just pull it out and your students already know what to do. So EduProtocols is a really easy way to build routines, predictability with your students, and then whatever content you need can be dropped inside of them. And unlike a HyperDoc, which can take hours to build, I feel like EduProtocols can be picked up and used really quickly. Bookakucha is probably one of my favorites. I also love Thin Slides, 8 parts, can be used with grammar or with math. Lots of really great stuff. There are books on there, but there's a bunch of free templates. And if you just go straight to Pinterest or Google and you Google Thin Slide EduProtocol template or Thin Slide template, you're going to find even more stuff out there. So I've gotten a lot of inspiration from EduProtocols. And if you follow Kim Vogie on Facebook or Twitter, she's a huge fan of EduProtocols and is constantly singing their praises. She actually teaches at a full-time virtual academy in Northern Orange County. And so she always posts a ton of stuff. So if you're not following Kim Vogie, I will write her name here, Kim Vogie, on Facebook and Twitter and probably Instagram too. There's a lot of stuff on there. Canva templates. How many of you guys use Canva? I love Canva, and they just came out with a bunch of really cool education templates, things for group projects, not just presentations, but other things. So whereas before you would make a poster or the students would work on a presentation together, I feel like Canva just makes things a little bit more simplified and very graphic. And I think the students spend less time worrying about how to make it creative because it already is creative. They can focus more on the content. And I've done a lot of graphics with Canva as well. So tons of templates here in the education section. TikTok, obviously, this is a quick list of 50 teachers to follow on TikTok and Instagram. I'm not saying that I endorse each one of these. I just briefly looked through the list. There's a couple of my favorites in here. I also find that TikTok is just very cathartic for my brain. It brings some serotonin back into the mix, which is really nice. And to keep you from going down a rabbit hole and having the TikTok person tell you that you've been on too long, I set a timer on my phone. Like I actually have it in my screen time settings. So after 45 minutes of any social media, they're all combined, I get a warning that I'm about to run out of time with my social media. I can choose to override it, but at least I'm aware that I've spent more than 45 minutes on those platforms. And then two of my favorite go-to platforms outside of Google products is Seesaw and Flipgrid. So a ton of resources there as well. Seesaw and Flipgrid are both really great at giving out their stuff for free. So that is what I have to share with you guys today. If you have any questions, let me know. We've got a few minutes left. I'm happy to talk about whatever you guys like. Also, I got this presentation from Slidesmania. If you haven't looked at Slidesmania or Slides Carnival, and I think there's one other one. Where were these cool slide templates when I was in the classroom? They're amazing. Also, if you haven't discovered Flippity yet, Flippity is also amazing. And there's a lot of really cool, fun templates. Again, things that you can make really quickly for your students using Flippity. So any questions that you guys have or anything that you want me to cover or talk about, I'm happy to do that with the time that we have left.
Thanks for talking about how do you say it? EduProtocols.
Edu protocols.
Okay, so I have that book, but I never read it. This is the story of my life. There's like 3 books or something.
Mhm.
But it sounds really awesome. I'm curious if anyone on here uses those protocols. Or heard of them? No? Okay.
They're basically like little mini lessons. So 8 parts. You know, this is something that you've probably seen something like this before in a worksheet format, right? And it doesn't have to be, you know, I've seen a lot of versions of 8 parts in different ways. If you want to see a math version, you can go to Math Reps. Very similar to the 8 parts, but it's for math. So Math Reps, and then down here at the bottom, they have some really great examples for each grade level, either using slides or Jamboard, depending on, you know, what platform you want to use. And they go all the way up to higher level as well. And if you needed to print them out and use them in worksheet format, you totally could. So here's some examples. It's not always 8 parts. Sometimes it's just 4. These are these slides? Yeah. So basic all the way to more complicated. Another fun activity that I like to use regularly. So 2 things to like engage students in the beginning. I remember when I first started teaching, it was all about the KWL chart. Anybody still use KWL charts? I think kids tend to sigh when you bring that out because it's a lot of words and they're having to pull on something, you know, that maybe they don't know anything about that topic. So I like to do notice and wonder instead. So either giving them an image or a short video clip or a story, and then I ask them to tell me what they notice and what they wonder. It's very similar to KWL. What do you know and what do you want to know? And you're rephrasing it though, so there's no wrong answer. Notice and wonder doesn't have a wrong answer because it's what they notice and what they wonder. And you can do notice and wonder with anything. So using that as a, you know, as something different than KWL. And then the other one is which one doesn't belong. You guys ever heard of which one doesn't belong? Which one doesn't belong is part of, if you have any math teachers present or if you work with math teachers, MT Boss. If you're not familiar with MT Boss, it's MTBOSS, Math Twitter Blog O Sphere, I believe is what it stands for. There's websites. If you've ever heard of, what's it called? Iron Chef, Classroom Chef. 2 educators down in Southern California wrote a book called Classroom Chef. They were both math educators. It actually reminds me a lot of Edu Protocols. They talk about the different parts of the lesson. Their big thing was if you have an appetizer, like a KWL chart, for example, would be an appetizer, we wouldn't try to make an appetizer a main course. And that's a common mistake that teachers make. They try to make something that's an engagement activity or an assessment activity, for example, a Kahoot. A Kahoot is not going to last 45 minutes. It's not meant to last that long. And so making sure that your activities are placed correctly to keep engagement going in the classroom. So which one doesn't belong is another one of my favorite, like starting engagement activities. Basically, it's 4 separate things. So for example, we can do this one here. Actually, this one's one of my favorites right here. Which one doesn't belong out of those 4 shapes? The heart, the star, the arrow, and I think that's a decagon. Let me know in the chat which one you think. Which one does not belong? Okay, Sean, why the star?
It does not have the same red outline as the other 3 shapes.
Okay, Laura, what about the heart?
It's the only one that doesn't have like a straight line.
Okay. If I was in a math class and I was trying to pull out math vocabulary from you, what are some other words that I could use?
Oh my goodness, I don't know.
What is it called when two lines meet?
Oh, a vertice. Or
Right.
sorry, a vertice.
So you could talk about vertices or the number of sides or the colors. I think the decagon doesn't belong because it's not filled in with color. So which one is the answer? There is no answer. There's no right answer. They're all right. What makes the answer correct is your ability to defend your solution. And how many times can we do math where it doesn't matter what the answer is? Like never, right? There's always, even when teachers say like, there's no wrong answer, liar, there's always a right answer. So for something like this, we actually mean it when we say there's no wrong answer. If you can defend it, then there's no wrong. And you can do this physically in a room. So if you have the ability to get up and move around, you can label your corners of your room A, B, C, D, and then you can throw this up on the board and put one there. And then the students have to navigate to that part of the room, and then they have to discuss, and then they can defend. And then you can go back and forth. It doesn't have to be shapes. It can be numbers. It can be equations. It can be problems. It can be characters in a novel. Which one doesn't belong? I have 4 villains next to each other. Which one doesn't belong? Well, Ursula doesn't belong. She's not really a villain. She was, she was wronged or whatever. It's all about getting them to encourage that academic vocabulary. And then some kid is going to say something like, well, what's a vertice? I don't remember what that word means. And then they can start having that conversation about it. So giving them, I love which one doesn't belong. And you can really, truly do it with everything. There's a bunch of examples here with incomplete sets, numbers, and graphs. But you can do it with anything. Another kind of version of this, but it's a little bit more complex. How many of you have played the polygraph game in Desmos? Anybody played the polygraph game in Desmos? Okay, so the polygraph game in Desmos is like it's like playing Guess Who. Have you guys played Guess Who before with the little thing and the little people, right? Okay, so it's a lot like playing Guess Who where you're asking questions. Well, does your person have this, this, and this? So you can actually do polygraph with actual graphs and actual equations, or you can add whatever picture you want in there. So back when I first learned about this game, I took all of the symbols from the Google products like Google Maps, Google Slides, the level 1 certification, forms, and it's 16 images. So you can make a graph with 16 images, and then you get partnered with somebody electronically, and then you can play that game. So when I learned about it, Desmos Polygraph, the activity was on parabolas. It has been so long. I didn't even remember that that's what they were called. And so I was trying to describe my parabola to my partner using chat, which is also a great opportunity for them to practice chatting. But I didn't have any of the descriptive words. I didn't know what it meant when the parabola goes this way versus this way. I didn't know what it meant when it's like not off center, it's off center versus, evenly over the like graph in the middle. I was so frustrated that I couldn't do it, that afterwards on Monday, well beyond the conference, I went to my favorite math teacher and I was like, okay, you have to give me a review of parabolas because I felt so dumb not knowing any of these, academic vocabulary. Have I forgotten all of it since then? Yes, I did. But it showed that academic vocabulary is important, and there's lots of opportunities to give students a gamified way of learning it that's not a Kahoot or a quizzes. So Polygraph is a game. There's a bunch of examples here that you can use. And so here's an example of the cards. You would get your kids in with the Desmos, and then you have to have more than one student. You have to have at least 2 students playing at a time. It is a synchronous activity. If you have an uneven number of students, then that just means you would need to play with them too to make sure that everybody was partnered with somebody. So do you guys want to try? Anybody want to try it so you can see what it's like to play? Or do you guys feel confident trying it on your own? It's really quick for me to fill it out. Let's see, I have to create an account. I have not created an account on this particular
I
email
think Sean
address.
put his hand up.
He did, I saw that. He volunteered to everybody. All right. Oh, I have to add a class. Okay, add new class. And this imports from Google if you want to do it that way. All right, invite code, copy, paste. So you can click on that if you want. That link in the chat. Obviously, if you're listening to this recording, you probably don't want to get in there and play. There won't be anybody. That's invite coach to the class. And then I need to go back and do assign. Student link. Oh, actually, I probably want to give you this link instead. There you go. Let's try that. Approve all. And you can skip the practice or you can go through the practice if you want. If you've never done anything with Desmos, Laura, you said you were looking for things to help you with math. Desmos works for just about any math level. And it's really, I love it. If I was a math teacher, which I'm not, I would definitely be using Desmos. Yeah, I like it a lot. So Sean, as soon as Laura's done practicing, she'll be your partner.
Okay.
And then as the teacher, I can sit here and I can actually watch their questions. And so I can make sure A, they're not saying stupid crap as they're playing. And B, I can maybe call out to them, like, you know, use your vocabulary. What words do you, maybe I put a couple of words on the board to help them focus on the words that I want them to be using.
I just made a mistake. I'm sorry.
It's fine. What mistake did you make?
I clicked the wrong thing. And so it said my person's wearing glasses, but it wasn't.
It's fine. It's fine. You should be out of there. So whoever is, so Laura, you got to be the picker. So you picked the shape that Sean is guessing. So he's going to ask you questions about what shape you picked. And same thing with the other game, Heather's the picker and Chelsea's the guesser. So Heather picked something and Chelsea is asking her questions. And so Heather needs to say yes or no to the questions that she's being asked. And then on your screen, you can eliminate the ones that don't apply to you. There you go.
Okay. I got Quinn helping me here. So
Nice. Perfect. That's a great question. Does your shape have parallel lines? You also have the ability to, like, let's say I have this displayed on the board, I can anonymize my list. And so it's not showing the students' actual names because maybe you don't want them to know who their partner is. So that's an ability that you have with Desmos. You can also pause. So if you notice that they're saying something wrong or that they're not using the vocabulary, you can pause the whole class and be like, hey guys, let's do X, Y, Z, and then you can keep going. That works for both the Desmos, like their little card lesson thing that they have, and the polygraph game. Ooh, that's such a fancy. Does it have a concave angled side? I don't even know what that means. My friend made a polygraph game with Disney princesses. Because you have to have 16 things in each polygraph game, and you can make them with whatever 16 things you want, whether it's an actual math thing or just an image that you upload. Then if you wanted to zero in, you can see, and so you should be, Heather and Laura, as they're saying yes, you should be eliminating items off of your screen as the questions are being asked. So for example, if the question was, is it symmetrical? And the answer is yes, then she should be deleting or Xing out all of the items that are not symmetrical. Does that make sense? Or maybe it's Sean that deletes them. I can't remember which person deletes all the things based on the questions. It may be the
Yeah,
guesser.
I delete, the guesser deletes, I think.
Perfect. The guesser deletes it. Yeah. Ooh, I like your question. Does it have more than one 90-degree angle? I also get teachers asking me about typing practice. Would be an example of authentic typing practice. Especially if they're having to use a computer, they're having to use their hands and not just their thumbs. Although I feel like by the time these children are like graduated and on their own, we may be completely adapted to voice typing by then and not even using keyboards anymore. Anybody close to getting it?
I have no idea.
I hate math.
I hate math. I feel the same way sometimes. I just have learned that I'm not very good at arithmetic. I'm actually really great at problem solving. I just need some help from my calculator because I get numbers mixed up. Does your shape look like a smiling mouth? Which one is
Well,
the smiling mouth? Is that a
just-
smiling mouth?
I just got like the ultimate distraction. My husband just came in from listening to something on the radio, the assembly, which is Heather's husband's probably there, and I still was able to participate and listen to him, which means students who can't focus will still be able to zone in on this.
Yes.
Like it holds their attention.
Awesome. You